Should the Denver Broncos draft a quarterback in this year's NFL draft class despite some of the concerns that people have whether or not this class has some good prospects? It could be franchise quarterbacks. Plus, we take a little bit of a deeper dive into Carson Strong, Nevada quarterback. Would he be a good fit for the Denver Broncos? You get that and much more in today's brand new episode, Locked on Broncos.
You are Locked on Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, Broncos Country? Welcome back into a brand new episode, Locked on Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast here on the Locked on NFL Network, your team every day. Could Carson Strong become a key prospect here for this Denver Broncos football team in 2022? We answer that question and much more from the South Stands to the end zone. I'm your host, as always, Cody Roark, joined alongside by my co-host, Sayre Bedinger. Both of us, we covered the Denver Broncos for the Locked on Network and 9 News. Thank you, Broncos Country, for making us your first listen of the day every single day, whether you watch us on your favorite audio podcasting platform, free and available everywhere, not to mention here in high definition on your TV, your phone, or your computer. YouTube, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you never miss out on a day's worth of Denver Broncos news, content, and coverage. But Sayre, hey, my friend, here on Tuesday, the NFL Scouting Combine officially kicks off. Now, while some quarterback prospects won't be throwing or won't be testing, we will see one guy, and that's Nevada quarterback Carson Strong. He'll be the focus of our show here today, but we have a lot to break down, my friend, in terms of draft questioning, especially right now with how the Broncos appear to be sitting.
Absolutely. And how they're sitting right now is 5 picks in the top 100. Obviously, a lot of currency to work with, a lot of picks to be playing with. And I'm excited, man. I think that opens up a lot of possibilities for you, especially at the quarterback position. And maybe specifically in a year where it's kind of like, I mean, is there really certainty at the position? Is there a solidified QB1? Is there a solidified guy even in the round one conversation? I think that puts the Broncos in an interesting spot right now to be able to kind of just be flexible with everything and all options on the table, including the guy we're going to talk a lot about, Carson Strong.
Well, and even if there isn't, like if there's one quarterback that goes in the top 32, which there's been rumors, there's been obviously Daniel Jeremiah has talked about the fact that he believes that, this quarterback class, there won't be many going in the first round. It's not about where you get drafted. It's about, what you do, who you can become in the NFL. So I think it opens up opportunities for Denver here. We did receive a question. If the Broncos draft a quarterback, what will we see offensively potentially for the quarterback? And we got a great question in from @newtype_JK47 on Twitter. He says, if Denver drafts a quarterback, will we see more quarterback-friendly plays like quick rhythm throws, screens, read options, or RPOs, QB draws as compared to the past? And, I think this is a very interesting question, Sarah, because I think when we look at this new offense, it always goes back to what Nathaniel Hackett had said about player first, scheme second. I think that if there's something that any of these quarterback prospects do really well, it's something that Nathaniel Hackett and his coaching staff would evidently build upon.
It is, right? And I think that that's a great question, too, being brought up. It's like, how could this new, offensive staff really expand the options for a quarterback? QB-friendly plays. I think that's something that's just the contrast for me and the thing that really stands out about this question in terms of what we've seen in the recent years with Pat Shurmur's offense. Didn't seem to necessarily be overly QB-friendly. In 2020, we saw Drew Lock testing the ball downfield more than pretty much any quarterback in the NFL. And part of that is Drew Lock's nature as a player, but also, there was a vast contrast between the end of the 2019 season and the end of the 2021 season compared to Drew Lock's 2020 season, where he was a bit more conservative on those bookend years. And so just to me, I think that it is going to be a lot more QB-friendly stuff. I don't know necessarily about RPOs, because how much do you want your quarterback getting hit, or like design QB running plays? How much do you want your quarterback really getting hit? I feel like that's a better asset used when your quarterback, like we saw in the season finale against Kansas City, right? Drew Lock takes off kind of up the middle when everybody is just gone, right? So I think that's where your quarterback is best utilized in the running game. And if you can use the RPOs, fantastic. I wouldn't do it a ton, but at the same time, I think what we're going to see is plenty of those QB-friendly plays. That's kind of been the Hackett MO, right? Going back to Jacksonville, at least, where he helped Blake Bortles and the Jacksonville Jaguars get to the AFC Championship game. You got to have a QB-friendly offense, and I think we're going to see a lot of that, especially with the collaboration of the staff and the new QBs that are going to be coming in.
Trying to think about which quarterbacks are probably the most versatile in the sense that, they offer something in the passing game, but they also offer something with their legs, right? RPOs, those are really interesting ones. Do you hand the ball off or do you throw it, right? It's all about reading one guy and being able to maybe get the defense to bite and then strike across the middle of the field. Jerry Jeudy would be a perfect RPO player. Same thing with KJ Hamler. I'd be very excited to see more RPOs in the Denver arsenal here. It's really what Kansas City does. They do a lot of RPOs, but at the same exact time too, it depends on which quarterback you go to get. So we also got another question from @Broncos Country 81 on Twitter. Do you think Denver takes a quarterback in the draft at all? And Sayre, I was going to ask you this question. Like, how do you feel about this? Do you think that the Broncos will take a chance in this year's NFL draft? I know free agency hasn't happened yet, and a lot is going to be contingent upon what they decide to do in free agency, whether or not they address QB at all in free agency or even try to trade for somebody. If they don't do that, it kind of tells me that they're going to be looking at the NFL draft in some facet.
I think so too, right? I think that it's kind of just good practice to prepare as though you are going to take a quarterback at some point. I think that the common misconception is that, well, they didn't take a quarterback in the first round, so obviously they don't really believe in these other guys that they're taking. I just don't think that's the case at all, right? I think you take a quarterback because you believe that you can develop them, that you can work with them, and you obviously have to manipulate the NFL draft board, and George Paton has shown that he likes to do that. He's capable of doing that. And so I really feel like you do take a quarterback in this draft. You didn't do it last year because you had Teddy Bridgewater, who came in as the veteran guy. You have Drew Lock under contract. You had Brett Rippon under contract. Everything is different in the 2022 offseason, right? I mean, the Broncos don't have Brett Rippon under contract. Teddy Bridgewater's not under contract. Drew Lock is the only guy under contract for 2022. So to me, yeah, you wait and see what's going to happen in free agency or with trades. But at the same time, I love the idea of just taking dart throws at the quarterback position. We saw the Patriots do that for many years, and they benefited off of that simply in terms of trading guys for valuable draft picks. I mean, Jacoby Brissett once went, I think, for like a third rounder or better. Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously, they traded him for a 2. They were able to kind of trade all these quarterbacks just because they were drafting and developing guys and letting them kind of work behind Tom Brady. Broncos don't have a Tom Brady. But the same logic applies. You draft quarterbacks because they're currency in the NFL. Teams are always coveting guys. And now you have the preseason, obviously, still where you can put these guys out there to get film out there. I just think it's a smart idea to always be drafting quarterbacks, or at least, acting like you're going to their games like George Paton does, going and visiting their college campus, going on those deep dive trips, and really just seeing, is this a guy that we would want to work with going forward?
Well, Broncos Country, that'll be our Lockdown Broncos poll question of the day. Do you believe that the Denver Broncos need to look in this year's NFL draft for a quarterback regardless? Should they ignore it in free agency? Should they go straight to the draft and look at developing somebody? That is our poll question. Let us know. Reply in the comment section down below on YouTube or tweet us on Twitter @Cody Roark NFL, @Sayre Bedinger. But coming up here in just a moment, we're going to get into our prospect profile series here on Nevada quarterback Carson Strong. Could he be the perfect fit for the Denver Broncos? We dive into that coming up here in just a moment. But before we do that, let me tell you about betonline.net, the sponsor of today's episode. Lockdown Broncos. And football might be over for the season, but basketball is in full steam with both pro and college hoops ongoing. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props, BetOnline is the #1 spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC, and even Olympic coverage. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Sayre, as we jump into the second half action on today's episode, Lockdown Broncos, we are getting into our player prospect profile series here. And here on Lockdown Broncos, in the coming days and weeks ahead, Sayre and I are going to break down several NFL draft prospects that could be good fits for the Denver Broncos based on a positional need, or if there's some actual traction about the Broncos having interest in these players. But let's start off now with, Nevada quarterback Carson Strong. Obviously, for him, I think that the appeal that many Broncos fans have, and it's just a history gem in general for the organization, Denver's always loved these big arm quarterbacks. Now, I do want to pinpoint here. It's rumored that he might have the second strongest arm in this year's draft class, and that Malik Willis might actually have the strongest arm based on all the advanced data that came out of the Senior Bowl. So I felt like that was a little bit of an interesting statistic where Malik Willis, some of his statistics actually superseded what Josh Allen was doing at the Scouting Combine. So who knows if we should read too much into that. We'll focus on Malik Willis in one of the future episodes, but let's talk about Carson Strong here. Sayre, obviously a strong arm, and one thing that stands out, and our good friend Tim Jenkins on his YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to watch and learn more about the quarterback position, you want to see great film breakdowns from Tim. Tim does a great job on all things QB, and he gave a lot of great information watching the film study here on Carson Strong. One thing that Strong can do, Sayre, is he can throw the NFL out consistently. We're talking about getting 15 yards and bending it out quick, especially against DBs and off coverage, some of the quickest athletes in the NFL, and being able to place the ball perfectly to the outside, because the fine line between an inch and even just a little bit of a separation there from the ball to the DB results either in a completion for the receiver or a pick six going the other way. And he demonstrated to consistently throw the NFL outright. But there was also a game against Fresno State, Sayre, that Tim did a great job breaking down. He threw a 35-yard back shoulder throw from the opposite side of the hash. I mean, that is big time arm arrogance right there.
And that's exactly what you need from your quarterback, right? You need them to have that arm arrogance. In today's NFL, I mean, yes, you can do a lot with giving your quarterback an opportunity to just succeed based on, hey, we're gonna run this short passing game, or we're gonna do all these different types of things like we see San Francisco do with Jimmy Garoppolo, where it kind of mitigates your quarterback's weaknesses and amplifies their strengths in terms of just reading the first two levels of the field. But I think one thing that I love most about Carson Strong is that arm arrogance that you talk about. He is willing to try and put the ball in a tiny bucket 50 yards down the field if he has to do it. And that's something that I think comes across every time that you watch him. There's at least a couple times almost in every game where he tries to fit a ball deep downfield that you're wondering, like, what is he even doing there? But he can do it, and he can do that. And that's the reason why, I mean, like, Drew Lock has the same type of arm arrogance, right? I mean, he's got a big arm, so he tries to fit the ball in spots. And like you said, an inch one way or the inch the other, it can get you into a lot of trouble in the NFL because guys are so much faster, quicker to react, so much smarter, and they've been around the game for so much longer than these college DBs. But at the same time, if you're the quarterback, you also adjust to the speed of the game. I mean, you also adjust to the speed of your receivers. And so for me, that's where I love Carson Strong the most. I think he improves in the other aspects of his game that some people were kind of questioning coming off his junior season. I thought we saw some great improvement from him this past year. In Broncos country, it seems like he might be the most beloved guy. I mean, from what I'm reading on Twitter, from what I'm hearing from, just from our fellow Broncos country people in the comment sections and wherever else, it seems like Carson Strong is a fairly beloved type of prospect. And that arm arrogance, Cody, is a huge, huge reason why he can do things with his arm. Like you said, he can do things with his arm that not a lot of other QBs can. And that's an asset that you need to have in today's NFL. Look at Justin Herbert, the Chargers, right? Yeah. I mean, he can put the ball in spots that not a lot of quarterbacks are even going to test those spots. But you go there, and if you go there, I mean, if you got the talent, you can get it done, and you can elevate your team. What do we say all the time? Be the tide that raises all the boats. That's the kind of quarterback that I think you need in the AFC West right now, right? Is somebody that can be the tide to raise all boats, to have the arm arrogance to make those throws that nobody else can.
And right now, too, I also think it doesn't matter. I know everyone gets so caught up in, well, Denver's got the so-and-so third, fourth, second, first best quarterback in the entire AFC West. But the reality is none of that matters because guess what? There's great quarterbacks for various teams. You can't control who's the best, who's not the best. You can only control who you have there. But there are some things about Carson Strong I think that do have some concerns. I know a lot of people I've seen are concerned about his knee injury history, some of the things that he's had there. Well, the important part about the NFL Scouting Combine this week, Sayre, well, guess what? The medicals will be a major part of that. So we're going to find out, too. They do this thing called the Cytex testing where they take a look at joint mobility and they also take a look at player flexibility. They go through any prior injury that you've ever had in your career at the Combine, and they go back and they evaluate, they check, they run tests, they do x-rays, MRIs, everything. So we will find out if, in fact, the knee issue for Carson Strong is actually an issue or if it's something that was just, okay, hey, something to monitor as we look at NFL draft stock, something to keep an eye there. But, just watching his film too, Sayre, I know we talk about mobility a lot. I get the vibe based on watching his tape. I don't think he's going to be much of a mobile asset in terms of being a quarterback that's going to run or throw on the run consistently. I think his design, at least at Nevada, was to be a true pocket passer. Now, that could change at the NFL. It's all about what the coaching staff wants you to do. It's about what your offensive line can do, what you can do as a quarterback. And with Nathaniel Hackett's player first, scheme second approach, I do think that maybe if in fact he is the guy, they will find a way to adjust. So that's something I'm keeping my eye on, Sayre. And I know Broncos Country is it well. But, coming up here in just a moment, Broncos Country, both Sayre and I, we're going to dive a little bit deeper. Would Carson Strong be a great fit for the Denver Broncos? We weigh the pros and cons, and we want your feedback as well coming up here in just a moment. But let me tell you about the other sponsor today's episode, Locked On Broncos. That's our good friends over there, rockauto.com. And if you need anything for your vehicle, rockauto.com has everything that you can be looking for. Rather than going to a local chain auto store or even like a car dealership to find the parts that you need for a vehicle, you can go to rockauto.com where the prices are always going to be reliably low, whether you're a professional or do-it-yourselfer, and you have access to it at home on your computer or in your pocket with your phone, rockauto.com. You get to save time and money when you choose Rock Auto today. Rock Auto is a family-owned business that's been serving auto parts customers online for over 20 years, and they have everything you could be looking for your car, whether it's brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, or even new carpet for your vehicle. They have that for you at rockauto.com. Plus, they deliver it directly to your doorstep. So go to rockauto.com right now to see all the parts available for your car or truck, right? Locked On. And their How Did You Hear About Us box so that they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right, Sayre, jumping into the fourth quarter action on today's episode. Locked On Broncos. Taking a look here at Carson Strong, Nevada quarterback. An intriguing prospect here for Broncos Country, as you mentioned, very well beloved in a lot of the comments on some other prospect videos that we've put out there. There's been a lot of debate. Oh, I like Kenny Pickett. I like Malik Willis. I love Carson Strong. I've seen a lot of Carson Strong love here on the show. So, you got to give a little bit of a, major shout out to Broncos Country. They are very passionate. They're very passionate about what they decide to do. But, we keep things rolling here, my man. Look, like I said, the pocket broke down. Sayre just did a great job adjusting right there with the pressure in his face. But we're going to continue our conversation here today. Let's talk about this here with Carson Strong. Denver, we talk about the big history going all the way back. John Elway, Jay Cutler. Big arm quarterbacks. Even Paxton Lynch had a little bit of a big arm coming out of Memphis. I remember that was a lot of the conversation there. Do the Broncos need, in your opinion, mobility at the position to operate Nathaniel Hackett's offense? I'm kind of torn here on maybe what direction Denver could go.
Well, I think obviously, Cody, man, shoot, my light, obviously, I'm not supposed to be in the spotlight today. So the spotlight's on you today, Cody. But man, I think for me, I look at this situation of I think about guys that have really excelled in this type of offense in the past. Are they all, elite scramblers, or do they all have elite mobility? That's not always been the case. Joe Flacco had a great season with Gary Kubiak in Baltimore. Matt Ryan obviously had plenty of success with Kyle Shanahan in Atlanta. And I think that some people who are projecting the best case scenario for Carson Strong maybe look at a guy like Matt Ryan and say, well, he's got enough mobility to go out there and do everything that you need him to do, whether you're running a play action boot or things like that. But at the same time, you look at what Kyle Shanahan prioritized last year in getting Trey Lance in his offense. Trey Lance, obviously an elite athlete on the upper spectrum of speed and running abilities and those types of things. Is that where things are really trending? And Carson Strong is obviously not that kind of guy. Like you mentioned, he's not. You're not going to say, all right, the defense, we need to put a spy on Carson Strong. Did I call him Carson Wentz? Carson Wentz, Carson Strong.
You don't say that for him either.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think with Carson Strong, you're talking about a guy that is not going to be a threat. You're not going to put a QB spy on him if you're the defense, but he does have the ability to get out. We saw at the Senior Bowl, they put him in those play action boot situations, and you got to love the upside of his arm strength on the play action boot, right? That is vintage Denver Broncos, and what Nathaniel Hackett keeps on bringing up is that vintage Denver Broncos offense, getting out on the play action boot and just launching the ball downfield. I feel like Carson Strong can do that effectively, even if you're not going to say, okay, well, yeah, he scrambled for 80 yards this game and had 2 rushing touchdowns. Can he do the quarterback sneak? Absolutely. Can he get out and do the play action boot? Absolutely. So I feel like those are the main areas right there that you're looking for. Is he a fit for Hackett's offense with his mobility? That's what I would prioritize.
Well, you know what, too, for his size as well. I mean, his build, his size kind of reminds me of old school Ben Roethlisberger in a sense. And it's like, okay, hey, 4th and inches, 4th and 1. I'm getting under center, QB sneak. I'm pushing forward because no one is going to stop that momentum of a guy that big. Now, I think there are situations too, and he could evolve. I think, coming into the NFL, getting on an NFL training program, they could have him lose maybe 5 to 10 pounds or maybe even gain 5 to 10 pounds of muscle. I don't think any of those things kind of indicate whether or not they're going to do anything different here. But as you mentioned, like what Nathaniel Hackett said, old school Broncos, Mike Shanahan offense. He was talking about the John Elway to the McCaffreys, the Shannon Sharps and the Behind the Broncos episode 2 documentary. And we even saw in the play design that he drew up on the screen that there is play action involved there in a lot of instances. So it's like, okay, I think in a situation like that, being able to get a guy that's going to come in, and this is where I really value Tim Jenkins' film breakdowns, because he goes over little nuance as well. When the quarterback is here under center and they're doing play action, do they show that they're faking the handoff? Do they show that they still have the ball, or do they hide it really well? Like, that is such an important trait. And we'll have Tim on one of these shows here coming up here soon, hoping to get him. Obviously, during the offseason, it's a busy schedule for him. But being able to showcase that, hey, he can hide the ball really well, especially off play action, and then he can deliver it downfield. Who do they need to deliver the ball downfield to? Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick. But then you're getting back one of your biggest speed elements in KJ Hamler. Sayre, I think for these fits alone, these reasons, you don't need Carson Strong to be a mobile aspect of your offense. You just need him to be able to operate, and with his big arm, especially at altitude, it could be a great fit for the Denver Broncos. So Broncos Country, we're eager for your thoughts down below. Would you love Carson Strong in a Denver Broncos uniform in 2022? Let us know in the comment section down below here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on a day's worth of Denver Broncos news, content, and coverage. And we also want to thank you once again for making Locked On Broncos your first listen of the day every single day. You can listen to us on your favorite audio podcasting platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. It would mean the world to both Sayre and myself. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts right now or Spotify, if you could go and leave us a 5-star review, tell us why you tune in the show. We would appreciate you. We love you even more than we already do as is. But with that said, that'll conclude today's episode, Locked On Broncos. Tomorrow's episode of the show, Sayre, Bedinger, myself, we're going to be talking about the NFL Scouting Combine. We're going to be looking at other NFL draft prospects as well.